This is the Less Insurance Dependence podcast show with my good friend Gary Takas and myself, Naren Arul Raja.
We appreciate your listenership, your time, and most of all, we appreciate your intention to reduce insurance dependence in your practice. Our goal is to provide information that will help you successfully reduce insurance dependence and convert your practice into a thriving and profitable dental practice that provides you with personal, professional, and financial satisfaction.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Less Insurance Dependence podcast, the official podcast of the Reducing Insurance Dependence Academy, www.rid.academy. Membership to the Academy is a gift from Gary and I in appreciation for your listenership. Visit rid.academy and do not forget to register. By registering, you will have access to all of our resources and a free pass to all of our events, including our annual summit. I am Naren, your co-host. Today's podcast is titled, Americans Spend $6 trillion annually on discretionary spending. Does your practice model benefit from this? It's a really, really interesting question. And I think I'm so excited to get into it. 6 trillion pretty much is approximately 35% on average that people spend based on where they want to spend money on versus where they have to. So I'm really interested in looking into this. But before I do that, I just have a quick announcement. Delivering next level patient care, creating positive experiences that keep patients coming back. Delivering next level patient care, creating positive experiences that keep patients coming back. This is an event we are doing on the 8th of July from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. It features Gary and myself, plus a lot of other experts in the industry. So it's a 2-hour event with 2 hours of CE, and it's 8 to 10 p.m. on the 8th of July. And the link that you can go to register is thrivingdentist.com/events. So don't forget to go to thrivingdentist.com/events and benefit from this. So Gary, what do you think about the 35% of the average income that people spend on things they want to? I could buy the cheapest car or the, even a second-hand car, but I don't. I buy the nice car that I want. I could not go on vacations, but I go on vacations, right? I don't need to buy the nice clothes, but I buy the nice clothes. I don't need to go to the nicest restaurants, but I do go to nice restaurants because I want to enjoy myself, right? We all do that. You do that. I do that. We spend money on things we want to spend money. We don't just, eat the drink the $1 coffee. We go to Starbucks instead and spend $4 for the same coffee, right? Discretionary spending. So, humans don't behave one way for dentists with dentists and a different way on their vacation. We are the same humans, right? If we want something nice, we are going to spend it on something nice. So what's your take on this, Gary?
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating question, and the data is absolutely fascinating. And I have done a pretty deep study of dental history, and if we look at dental history, it wasn't that long ago then that the services that were available in dental office were fairly limited. They were the things that would take care of urgencies. A toothache. Restorative dentistry. Restorative dentistry, Dr. L.D. Pankey is considered by many the father of modern day restorative dentistry. When Dr. Pankey started his career in the 1920s, 100 years ago, dentistry was largely a profession of exodontia. What were they doing, Naren, 100 years ago? What was a dentist doing?
Yeah, taking the teeth out.
Taking teeth out. They weren't saving them. They were taking them out. And over the last 100 years, we have really developed some very advanced ways to enhance people's lives through quality dental care. So 100 years ago, there was no discretionary spending on dentistry.
Right.
There were nice restaurants in 1920.
Right.
There were vacation spots in 1920. There were automobiles in 1920. You didn't have to have a horse anymore.
Right.
But dentistry was largely a necessary service.
Right.
And over the years, it's really evolved into a very advanced area of healthcare. where we can really enhance people's life. We help them keep their own teeth all their life. We can give them a second chance if they've lost teeth through things like dental implants. So I think if you're thinking as a business person or thinking as a strategist in your practice, you would want to have some mix of high value services in addition to everyday general dentistry. And if you're a regular listener to Less Insurance Dependence podcast, you've heard me say that I think the best practice model is a combination model that as a base has everyday general dentistry combined with hygiene, a really strong hygiene department. That's your base. And then on top of it, the icing on the cake is high value services. And it's the high value services that will attract people that have discretionary income interested in spending it on themselves in terms of their health. Now let's tie that in to how does that fit a PPO practice? Well, my perspective is, and my vantage point is that most patients that come to you because you're on their plan are only interested in things that are covered by their plan, right? We hear that all the time.
Absolutely.
You present something, is that covered by my insurance? That's the phrase that every dentist cringes when they hear it. Because we don't have, unfortunately, your dental insurance was only meant to cover the most basic things. And what we're talking about here is not basic. Oh, okay, then I don't want it. So if you've got a PPO dependent practice, are you capturing those discretionary dollars?
No, you're not. I think the challenge also with PPO, like humans are a creature of habits, and PPO trains you to ask the question, is it covered? Is it covered? Is it covered? So the challenge is that even somebody who can afford discretionary spending, the same person who takes nice vacations, the same person who drives a nice car, they're just trained to think of dentistry as, oh, is it covered, right? So even though there's money on the table, you're not able to get it. And partly you, the team, also kind of get institutionalized where you're used to hearing that question. You assume like everyone is only going to do the things that is free, meaning covered by insurance, versus what they really want, right? The human being who's driving the nice car or wearing that nice, suit or, carrying that expensive handbag, why are they any different? What's different about dentistry that they won't get the best? They won't get what they want versus just bare minimum, what's covered.
Necessity, just what's necessary.
Right.
And, I do believe that in every practice, doing some necessary dentistry, you're being of service to people. You're helping them. You're helping them get out of pain. You're helping them cover very basic necessities. And those are the kind of things that are covered to some degree of insurance.
So let me ask you a question, Gary. How do you think of the mindset? Do you think if I'm a practice owner in 2025 and I know 1/3 of the money that the average person has, he or she is spending on things they want, not they need, right? Like in other words, rent is something you need. If you don't pay the rent, you're going to get kicked out. But they're not doing that. They're spending 1/3 of their money or 35% on things they want. So how would I create a practice that obviously provides a necessary service, which we both agree, but on top of that goes after that, discretionary spending?
Well, it goes to your expertise, Naren, which is marketing. You got to fish in the right pond.
Right.
You got to, think of that analogy. You got to fish in the right pond. And if you're fishing in the PPO pond, you're going to get a very thick skin in your forehead because you're going to bang your head against the wall with people that only want what's covered by their insurance. And do you think insurance executives are having executive meetings to talk about how do we cover discretionary expenses in dentistry? No, they aren't having those because they don't want. They know that employers aren't necessarily willing to fund that. And they'll see their revenue go down because their customer, remember this at all times, the insurance company's customer is not you, doctor. It's not your patient.
Right.
It's the employer that buys the policy. And do they want to cover discretionary benefits?
No,
they don't. They don't need to. So you're fishing in the wrong pond. Now, I'm not saying you couldn't get a good patient, say has Delta, and they find your office and they discover what you could do for them. And they're interested in having those things done. That can happen. It's happened in every PPO practice, I can confidently say. But it's less likely because you're already, you're bucking the trend. They aren't as open to that. They aren't seeking you out for that. And I would rather invest in a comprehensive marketing plan where they're seeking you out for those things, where they're literally looking at, how can dentistry enhance the quality of my life? They're not, what's covered by my insurance. How can dentistry enhance the quality of my life? And when you have people, I think every doctor listening to this would love to have a patient, new patient. Imagine this, Naren, a new patient that comes into the practice and the patient says, doc, I've really been on a wellness health journey over the last number of years, and I've done a lot of things to help to become as healthy as I can. And I'm still improving. I've got work to do yet. But I'm also interested in being a patient of yours and partnering with you to help keep my teeth and my mouth as healthy as it can be. Do you think every dentist on the planet would love hearing that come out of a patient's mouth?
Absolutely, Gary. Because,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, that's why they go to dental school, right? Change people's life. They get extra training. They are passionate about dentistry and certain parts of dentistry. So 100%.
Yeah. And now if you're fishing in that pond, you would do that through a very strategic marketing plan, which, Naren, I'm happy to say you do that extremely well. I've experienced that myself as a client, but also experienced it in the work you've done with our coaching clients, attracting those kind of people. So it's about fishing in the right pond. And by the way, that pond, $6 trillion, it's not a pond. It's an ocean.
It's an ocean.
It's an ocean.
Exactly.
I mean, it's crazy because but I think what happens, Naren, there's a bit of psychology, practical psychology here. And it really is an element of practice psychology. When you're bucking the trend, when you hear no enough, you stop presenting it.
Right.
Right. It's just human nature. It's like, it's like touch the hot stove as a child.
Right.
You're not going to keep touching the hot stove.
100%.
You probably won't even touch it the second time.
And PPO practices have that hot stove syndrome, right? Like somebody says no, so they don't want to present ideal care. They just stop presenting it.
Yeah. And I mean, I've heard from doctors, hey, tell me a little bit about the mix of your practice. Well, it's just everyday general dentistry because that's all they want.
Right.
Do you find patients that have complex needs? Oh, all the time, but I don't present complex treatment plans to them because they're just going to say no.
Right.
And I want to say, well, Wayne Gretzky said you miss every shot you don't take, so start presenting. But they are convinced.
Right.
Like we could attach a polygraph to their wrist and say, do you believe your patients would accept ideal care?
And they'll say no.
And they're going to say no, and they're going to pass the polygraph test.
Yeah.
Because they really do
believe in it.
That.
They believe that.
Believe it.
And I think this is
about fishing in the wrong pond.
Yeah. And it's because we never remember good things that happened to us, but we never forget one bad thing that happened to us. So that one person who said no will be like in our mind, and the way they said it, and they were like upset and whatever it is, right? And we so we have to understand it's a human, that's one of those incorrect wiring we have in our brains that works against us.
Oh, it is. It is out. You're absolutely correct. And the thing is, and I'll counter that though, for those that are open-minded to this.
Yes.
The population has never been more interested in health than right now.
Exactly.
Never.
And they're more interested in health and more interested. I remember Bill Gates saying something where people are so into health that, they'll start taking care of their health more and more, they're watching things, they're eating healthier, they are running, they're walking, they're taking, they're so into health today, compared to any time in history.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's profound. And it's evident in everything, food labels. It's evident in the variety of gym memberships.
I'm conscious of
imaginable.
I'm conscious of microplastics. I don't drink water from a plastic bottle. Either I'll forgo that water, or because supposedly there is microplastics and this water is going all over the place and gets heated up and blah blah blah. And so I didn't know that, right? It's because of the information we have in our fingertips, and we see all this knowledge just passed on to us about.
There's a term that you and we bounced around, we talked privately. There's a term that is becoming more embraced now in society, and it's health span. Span. Lifespan is what our parents used to think about. What's your lifespan? How long you live?
Right.
Health span is, I'm not getting the exact description, but here's how I describe it in my mind. I credit Peter Attia, by the way, the MD that wrote the book Outlive.
Yes, Outlive. Yeah, I read that book.
He kind of coined that term health span. It means living well long.
Yes, yes, yes.
So it's not just living, being 90 years old and
Yeah,
being
like my
on a
mom, she was
walker.
sick. She couldn't walk, knee pain,
Yeah.
etc. the last 10 years. So that's not what he means by
No, what
health
he
span.
means is being active, being able to in your 90s. And now they're saying in your, past 100 years old,
Yes,
that taking care of yourself, you can still live a quality of life with the right care and attention. And there's never been more interest in this stuff than now. I mean, it's a New York Times bestseller. Just if you haven't read it, read the book Outlive,
right,
How to Live Long Well. And my point is that people know the mouth is connected to that. They want to eat anything they can eat, into their late years, not be constrained to a blender diet.
and the other thing that just comes to mind is I remember you used the phrase, going to the salt mine, right? Imagine running a practice where you help people live healthier. Imagine running a practice where you have conversations about creating the ideal smile, the smile of their dream. Won't you jump out of bed every morning and want to get to work?
You know what I look at it there, and this will be an awkward analogy, but it just hit me because we talked about it a little earlier. You know
Yeah.
what I think our listeners of the of less insurance dependents are? I think our listeners are the equivalent of brilliant chefs.
Right.
They're well trained. They have tremendous diversity. If they were a chef, of being able to prepare meals, and the only thing their customer wants is a basic, a basic food staple.
Mm-hmm.
But they're a very accomplished chef that could provide so much more. But the customer, the patient, only wants the basic food staple, not the 5-star menu items that they can prepare. And
Right.
that's why I think, maybe we'll close on this point. That's why I think so many dentists live quiet lives of desperation. They've
Right.
got all these skills, they have the capability, they have the passion around it, and yet their patient only wants what they could have provided as a 15-year-old chef. And I think that's what leads to so much frustration. But you can change it. You can change it. And how many patients do you need to have a world-class practice? I mean, if you're a solo dentist, Aaron, if we had 1,500 patients, you know what that practice could be in terms of numbers, in terms of
Yeah, that's like
could be a phenomenal practice.
phenomenal practice. And the other thing I would like to encourage people to think about is we have a kind of a folly in our thinking, our wiring, or the way we think. We set a target, let's say 2 million, whatever the number.
Well, and the great news is you don't have to continue this way. How many patients do you need to have a world-class, thriving practice that provides personal, professional, financial satisfaction? And can you find those? We don't need all of them. We just need those. Well, when there's $6 trillion being spent, to bring it back full circle to the topic, when there's $6 billion being spent on discretionary spending, and the truth is, much of high-value dentistry is discretionary.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but much of it is. They don't have to have implants.
Right.
They don't have to have straight teeth. They don't have to have a beautiful, sparkling smile. That's discretionary.
Right.
But when $6 trillion in the United States is being spent on discretionary spending, I hope that has you all optimistic about what you could do about that in your practice. Well, one thing we know about our listeners is they take action. If you haven't taken action already, I've got 2 suggestions for you. Number 1, I would schedule a marketing strategy meeting with Equa. Learn how you can start fishing in the right pond. Naren, what's the URL for our listeners?
It's the URL you can go to is ekwa.com/MSM. That's equa.com/MSM for marketing strategy meeting.
And my second recommendation is, if you'd like very specific coaching to help evolve your office to get some of that discretionary spending, set up a coaching strategy meeting with me. Go to thrivingdentist.com/CSM, stands for Coaching Strategy Meeting. I'll meet with you one-on-one, and we'll talk about what your future could be. Well, this has been fun, Naren. Thanks for digging up that stat and suggesting this topic. I think it was a great one. Want to close by thanking all of our listeners for the privilege of their time. Naren and I look forward to connecting with you on the next Less Insurance Dependence podcast.